Hi everyone, welcome back for another episode of Adams for the Love of Movie Picks. This time around we're going to be talking about the 2021 film Snake Eyes. Now, if you're not familiar with Snake Eyes, he is a character that was created originally for the G.I. Joe series back in the 1980s. He had a few roles in the G.I. Joe films, the real life G.I. Joe films that were done. And then they decided in 2021 to give him his own origin film, which I think was pretty cool. Snake Eyes is one of the coolest G.I. Joe characters in my opinion. I mean, he's just a badass looking ninja who fights for good. And the fact that he doesn't talk is kind of cool as well. This movie here, it stars you see here, so it's got Henry Golding as the title character Snake Eyes. It's got Andrew Koji as Tommy, Haruka Abe as Akiko, Iko Uwas as the Hard Master, Peter Mensah as the Blind Master, Samara Weaving as Scarlet, and I think that is pretty much the extent of the well-known actors in this particular movie. So basically, this, like I said, this is an origin story. It's basically telling how the Snake Eyes became Snake Eyes. Now, the one thing that I found kind of annoying. Now, I'd have to do my research and see if anywhere along the history of G.I. Joe, if Snake Eyes ever actually had a name or not, or if he's just always and has been known as Snake Eyes. But you think even for an origin standpoint, even if there hadn't been a name, which again I'm not 100% sure on, you think they could have made one up for the sake of the movie? I found that kind of frustrating. So the Tommy character is Storm Shadow in essence, and they show what Storm Shadow's real name is, but they don't show what Snake Eyes' real name is, and that to me is kind of annoying. Would have been cool in an origin movie to learn what his true name was. That being said, it's still a good movie. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And it does tell you where he gets the name Snake Eyes from. So basically, you find out that Snake Eyes' father was killed when he was a young boy, and he was killed by a man who rolled a pair of dice to determine if he was going to kill somebody or not. And you come to find out, and the dice came up Snake Eyes. So apparently it hinges off a reference to his father being killed when the dice came up Snake Eyes, as far as I understand it. So that's basically where the name comes from. Now, the one thing, too, if those of you, most of you may not care about this, I kind of cared about it because you want there to be some synergy between movies that relate to each other. So if you remember, now I can't remember, I think it's the first G.I. Joe, I can't remember if it's the second one, I think it's the first real life one. They do a bit of a flashback sequence with Snake Eyes and show him as a kid, basically like he became Snake Eyes. It was taken in by the Arishikage, the ninja clan. He was an orphan in Japan. He was taken in by them along with, and grew up with Storm Shadow. And that's how he became Snake Eyes and became a ninja. And in this movie, they decided that they were going to somewhat divert from that. So instead of Snake Eyes being an orphan in Japan and being a kid, taken in by the Arishikage, he is a full-grown man who actually is tasked by a rival, and actually someone who ends up, he finds out who's working for Cobra, to infiltrate the Arishikage and steal a very powerful weapon from them. So I don't mind the different storyline per se, but like I said, if you're gonna have movies that relate to each other, at least on a base level, and you're gonna, even in a flashback sequence, tell one origin story, then in my opinion you should stick with that origin story. I didn't like the fact that they changed it. I mean, it wasn't hard to follow, and it kind of lent itself to the story, but I felt like you even could have had that storyline play out later on. It's either that or they needed to just eliminate the whole flashback sequence or edit the flashback sequence to fit this movie. The only thing I can say is it's possible they weren't thinking about doing an origin movie at that time. I honestly can't say. But if they were, like I said, it would have been nice if they had some synergy there. Just my personal opinion. It doesn't take away from the movie. It's a great movie. Lots of story, lots of action to it. And it's just kind of cool to see Snake Eyes become Snake Eyes. And also from that standpoint, to hear Snake Eyes talk. Because throughout pretty much, if memory serves me right, the entire G.I. Joe cartoon, both of the real life movies, he never talks at all. And to hear him have a voice for the first time is kind of cool. Now, I don't know if there's going to be a sequel or something else. The only thing that was kind of annoying to me, again, was it didn't really explain why Snake Eyes doesn't talk. From what I understand, it was a vow of silence. From the cartoon and the movie, he's taking a vow of silence for his master being killed. As far as I understood it. That at the same token, it would have been kind of cool to connect to that point, even at the end of the movie, to see, when Snake Eyes actually stops talking. Again, my personal opinion, you may not be as in-depth or even care about that, but I just wanted to kind of mention that. That being said, like I said, it's cool. This is kind of like a coming-of-the-age movie for Snake Eyes, like finding himself in his place in the world after being, basically orphaned by the world, but after the death of his father. Kind of cool to see how he becomes a member of the Arashikage. And at the very end, you get to see him put on this Snake Eyes outfit for the very first time. Very cool. If you love G.I. Joe, if you like a good origin movie, especially a good origin movie with lots of good action as well as a good storyline, Snake Eyes is definitely the movie for you. I would definitely recommend it. Like I said, even with the points that I'm making, I'm just making the points because I like when they try to, like I said, interconnect movies to each other. I like there to be some synergy so it makes sense. Otherwise, in my opinion, it's just its own standalone film. But that doesn't take away from the fact that I recommend you definitely should check out Snake Eyes because you will not be disappointed. So there you are, folks. I hope you enjoyed this one, and we'll catch you next week for another episode of Adams for the Love of Movie Picks. Take care, guys.
And now, folks, it's time to say goodnight. We sincerely appreciate your patronage and hope we've succeeded in bringing you an enjoyable evening of entertainment. Please drive home carefully and come back again soon. Good night.